Hi, everyone. My name is Matt. I'm the youth and family pastor at Cornerstone Church in Marshfield. I'm here today with your Cornerstone Connection, a daily devotional. Well, today we get to start the Old Testament book of Ruth. It's a great book. It's a short book, but it's one of those stories that has a really tough beginning, but it's going to have a really beautiful end to it. We look forward to that. That can be the reality in life. And what we're going to see today is how do we, when things arise in life, circumstances, tough situations, whether it be sickness or the loss of a loved one or loss of a job, whatever it might be, how do we go from this place where we might be feeling bitter because of what happened in life? How do we move from bitter to better? Well, we're going to see that throughout the book of Ruth. And today, as we start in chapter 1, we can see why someone like Naomi, who we're going to meet in just a second, would be bitter. But we're going to see how things are going to get better. And at the end of this chapter, she gives us that first step to going from bitter to better. So here's Ruth chapter 1, starting in verse 1. Join me if you'd like. It says, "In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land." That's bad news, right? "And a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi. And the name of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. They lived about 10 years, and both Mahlon and Chilion died." Wow. "So that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband." This is bad circumstances, right? This is a bad situation. This is tough life, and really good reasons why someone like Naomi would feel bitter. She's lost her husband. She's living in a famine, and now she's left with her 2 sons. They get married, and now they die just 10 years later, and she's left with her 2 daughters-in-law. So tough circumstances for Naomi, and no doubt are a good reason to be feeling a bit bitter. And she talks about it as much as her and Ruth make their way back to Naomi's homeland, which is Bethlehem. Here we go, verse 19. It says, "So the 2 of them, that would be Naomi and Ruth, went on until they came to Bethlehem. And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women said, 'Is this Naomi?'" Like, they remember her, right? "And she, Naomi, said to them, 'Do not call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?' So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. And they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest." Now, I told you in this book we were going to go from learning what it looks like to be bitter to going on to better, from bitterness to betterness, if you will. And as we close up chapter 1, not a whole lot seems better, right? Naomi just seems bitter. But I'm quite convinced that if we find ourselves in a place in life in which bitterness is creeping up, where we have good reason to be bitter, and we're just bitter about life in general and our circumstances, we're bitter towards the Lord, we're bitter towards other people, I believe Naomi shows us how we get on the path to better. And it's what we see in verse 20 when people say, "Hey, it's Naomi, she's back." And she goes, "Don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me." You see, what Naomi is doing here is she is admitting, she is confessing, she is being transparent about how she feels, about her bitterness. And I think all too often, friends, when we have negative feelings, whether that be bitterness or anger or frustration or anxiety and worry, whatever it might be, we like to take those feelings and just shove them down and don't let anybody know about them, because we would be we would feel bad about however we feel. But the reality is if we're going to get better, if we're going to go from bitter to better, we need to let those feelings out in the light. We need to allow them to go from in here to out here. They need to be exposed to light. And sometimes the best way to do this is just tell somebody about it, right? And Naomi doesn't hold back. She lets the people know, I left here full, but now I have come back empty. The Lord gave, and now the Lord has taken away, and this is how I'm left feeling. And so, friends, I don't know where life has you right now. I don't know if you have feelings of bitterness or frustration or anger or anxiety or worry, whatever it might be. Let me encourage you, find that trusted friend, that one who loves you to be transparent, open, and honest. And be open about how you are feeling. That is the first step for moving from bitter to better, from angry to not angry, from anxious to peace. Okay? So let it out and allow God to be able to use that exposure to the light to start to bring healing to the inside. Friends, have a great day. We'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.